everyone, my name is Tori. Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about what hedgehogs can eat and what they can't eat. So hedgehogs can eat a number of things, actually. Most of what I've discussed on my channel about diet for hedgehogs has been just their kibble, because that's the base of their diet, and I think that's the really important thing that you need to learn before you get a hedgehog. But what they can eat in addition to their kibble, there's a ton of things. So I'm gonna start with what they're not allowed to eat, because that list is actually shorter and tends to be more important because some of the things on this list are dangerous. So number one is anything acidic. So oranges, lemons, grapefruit, anything like that. You really don't want them to have anything too acidic because it can cause upset stomach, mouth sores, ulcers. You just don't really want to go there. That's kind of the case for most small animals anyway. Too much citrus is never a good thing. There are also a couple things that, while they aren't toxic themselves, they are a choking hazard, like dried fruit, kind of the gummy dried fruit. Dehydrated fruit they don't have as much problem with, but like dried gummy fruit and nuts can be a choking hazard. You have to be careful with those. You can give them in a puree or in other forms, but you really don't want to give them in their traditional like dried forms because those can be choking hazards. Grapes or raisins are completely toxic. You don't want to give those at all. Onions and garlic are, of course, toxic. They're toxic to most animals. And avocado, nobody's completely sure about, but most animals are toxic to it, so I wouldn't recommend feeding it to your hedgehog either. Anything too high in sugar or anything with chocolate in it or cocoa can be a problem. You don't want to give them candy or chocolate or anything like that. I don't know why you would in the first place. They don't benefit from it in any way, but just so you know, don't give your hedgehog candy. There are a couple things that hedgehogs can eat in very small quantities, like human junk food and human seasoned food, as long as it doesn't have onion or garlic in it. Like some hedgehogs are big fans of anointing with potato chips, so their parents will let them do that. Or I know a lot that like French fries. There's someone whose hedgehog likes bacon. So these are things that you would give like on a birthday or like really occasionally, because while they're not toxic, they're not good for them either. You will see on a lot of lists about what hedgehogs can and can't have that fish is on them. Now here's the thing about fish. Hedgehogs can have it. Technically, it can be good for them as well. It makes their poop stink. So it's up to you whether or not you want to avoid it or if you want to feed it. If you do feed it, avoid things that are really high in salt, like canned tuna or shrimp. Of course, they can have either of those in tiny moderation, but like use your best judgment there. Something else to keep in mind, in addition to the like fish disclaimer, is that hedgehogs do not have a cecum, which is the part of the body that digests cellulose. Now, cellulose is what plants are made out of, which means fruits and vegetables in the case of what your hedgehog would be eating. This means that hedgehogs do not digest cellulose properly. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't give them fruits and vegetables at all ever. It does mean that you need to only give them occasionally. You should not be giving your hedgehogs fruits and vegetables every single day. You can cause digestive issues, and that would not be good. That's something to avoid. Dairy products are another thing that I should give a brief disclaimer on, because they do kind of fall in between categories. They can have dairy products, but in moderation again. Hedgehogs are slightly lactose intolerant, as a lot of animals are, and so giving them a bunch of things with milk and cheese in it isn't really advisable. They can have a little bit, a couple pieces of like shredded cheese here and there if they like cheese. I know I made hedgehog tacos and I put like 2 tiny little slivers of cheese on their tacos. They ate it. It's not gonna hurt them. Don't give them a cup of milk to drink though. Now, as far as what hedgehogs can have a wide range of things. There is a ton of different foods that you can try with your hedgehogs, so I'm not going to list every single thing. We would be here forever. I would miss things. But I will leave a link down below that goes over some of the most common things for you guys. That way you can have a list on hand to reference. Since I'm not going to go over every single thing they can eat, I'll go over what my hedgehog personally likes the most. So my hedgehog tends to like protein sources the best. So he really likes pretty much all feeder insects. He's a big fan of feeder insects. Hedgehogs thrive off of chitin, which is insect exoskeleton. In the wild, while they are opportunistic omnivores and they will eat just about anything they can get, they do lean heavily towards being insectivores and eat primarily a lot of bugs. So my hedgehog likes bugs a ton. I feed pretty much everything I have on hand, which is a lot usually because I have a tenrec who is an insectivore and needs an insectivore-based diet. I have another animal coming soon that is an insectivore and is on an insectivore-based diet as well. And so I tend to feed Draco whatever I have on hand, which is a lot of different bugs. I do give him a different kind of bug every single day. I don't load up his bowl because he eats his kibble too, but I make sure that he has something every single day. If he's not getting insects, he's getting some kind of meat if I have it on hand. He really likes chicken. Sometimes I have turkey patties on hand and he'll get a little bit of turkey, usually raw. If I have freeze-dried raw on hand, like for cats, he'll get a little bit of that. He also likes eggs. He's a big fan of eggs. He's in a couple videos eating eggs on my channel. Big fan. He likes those scrambled. So he's a big fan of everything that's sort of protein based. And that's really about it. I can't get him to eat fruits and vegetables, which is fine. They're not a necessary part of his diet, but he won't eat them anyway. He isn't a huge fan of a bunch of junk food. He really isn't a fan of anything with dairy in it. I know a lot of hedgehogs are. Keep in mind, if you feed dairy, you need to feed it in moderation. He doesn't really care for baby foods much, predominantly because most of the ones that I keep on hand are for my hamster and they tend to be fruit and vegetable based. He does like some wet cat foods. Wet cat food makes a really good thing to add to your hedgehog's food, although I tend to go towards like raw add-ins more often, just because that's what I do with my hedgehog. If you feel better doing all cooked meats, that's totally up to you. You'll see a lot of lists that recommend only cooked meats, and if you want to go by that, that's totally fine. I'm not like pushing anything on you guys. I'm just saying what I do. That's why I hate doing these videos, because there's so much stuff you can do. There's so many variations. But yeah, I will have a link down below for you guys that you can check out, that you can go by, that you can sort of start trying things with your hedgehogs. And keep in mind that some hedgehogs are really picky and won't eat a lot of things, especially if they were with a breeder that kept them on only kibble. Most of the adventurous hedgehogs I have found have been with breeders who also introduce foods kind of early, or have been in homes that have been introduced to new foods kind of early. So that's something to keep in mind if you adopted a 2-year-old hedgehog and they won't eat anything but kibble. That's not unusual. Honestly, even young ones that won't eat a bunch of stuff, that's not unusual either. If hedgehogs find something they like, they're incredibly stubborn. They're not going to eat something just because you want them to eat it, but keep in mind, you shouldn't give up, because I will tell you right now that Draco didn't eat anything I wanted him to until he was like 1.5 or 2 years old. Like, we were pretty far into me owning him before he started trying things, and now he eats anything protein based that I give him. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video, hopefully. Bye!
I take what's mine and I leave behind.